Hello and welcome in to the only live Monday through Friday lacrosse talk show on the planet. You are watching Daily Dive. It is Tuesday. Oh, good Lord. Here I go. It is Wednesday, Hump Day, January 15th, 2025. I am your host, Michael Carvelis in Guyton, Georgia. Producer Joe is behind the scenes in back-to-back 4-0 Banditland, New York. We are live on 12 Sports via YouTube, X, and Roku. Subscribe to the 12 Sports channel on YouTube for other great shows and live sports. On today's awesome show, we're going to get into this time it's for real, our guest, Steve Bermel, the Bandits color guy, as heard on WGR and, of course, on ESPN Plus, among other things. He's always with John Gertler. We'll talk to him. We'll also get into another guest, Cody Janzen, Saskatchewan Rush play-by-play. I guess the two of the best teams in the league. Not bad for a casual Wednesday here. And, of course, my NLL power rankings. And as I've already teased, those teams are 1 and 2, so it's not like it matters at this point. But you're going to see the rest of the list. There's just a lot of movement, by the way. We are presented by tickets.12onsports.com. It's tickets.numbers12 letters ozsports.com. Get your National Lacrosse League tickets for less by going to that website. They include every sports and all your favorite artist concerts, not to mention Broadway and theater. Tickets.12onsports.com. That's enough about us and more about Steve Bermel. Steve, sir, how are you today?
Oh, doing well. Thanks for extending an invite again after I missed yesterday. I feel awful about that, but glad to just get an opportunity to come right back and be on the show and talk about the Buffalo Bandits.
Yeah, listen, if I want to first of all thank you. First of all, here's a graphic from producer Joe.
Wow, what a flattering graphic.
Yeah, I'm telling you, with the Bills get up there, which I will definitely ask you about in a few minutes here about the Bills as well. It would be fair if I didn't. But I want to thank you and John and producer Trevor, I don't know if he goes by that, for having me on WGR. I thought it was only appropriate I bring at least one of you back on. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for being the halftime guest. I know it might have been kind of short notice too, and it was great having you on the show and having a conversation about the work that you put in, but also about the game that happened last Friday.
Did John know you were going to ask me the Dane Smith question? Because I thought that was great, by the way. That was a great question.
We didn't talk about that at all. I remember I came on the show after the Bandits finally did it, and I took the shot when I had the opportunity for that. So, but you're not afraid to say what's on your mind or stir the pot or whatever word you want to use, and that's good. I mean, it makes for good engagement. And hey, when Dane Smith makes you eat a little bit of crow. Now back-to-back champion Dane Smith. I'm going to remind you of that just because I have to get a little.
Love it. Yeah, Dane's awesome. In my prediction, my crystal ball, I forgot what you guys call that part, but I said I should have gone with Ian McKay because he was definitely the star of that show.
With McKay, what was that? With what? Oh,
I said with my crystal ball prediction that y'all had at the end of it. I said Dane Smith should have gone with Ian McKay because he was awesome.
Ian McKay is having an unbelievable year too, and playing full-time offense. I think that was the plan last year, but unfortunately, due to some injuries on defense, losing Bryce Sweeting and having some injuries, he ended up out the back door and playing more of a transition role. Now it's a necessity for him to play on the left side offense because it's only Kluche, Byrne, and Scanlon over there, and Kluche on IR. And Ian has definitely taken advantage of the opportunity he's been given. 2 games with 5 goals so far this year.
I think Pat Gregoire was on the TSN broadcast and said something along the lines of, can't win transition player of the year if you keep coming out the front door, Ian.
Yeah, kind of a travesty that he hasn't gotten one the last few years. And it's hard because it's always hard to differentiate who's a defender and who plays transition. Like, there's certain guys that have won it that are defensemen that have a lot of points. I think the bigger travesty, and this is no disrespect to Ian, is that Steve Priolo's never won a defender of the year. And between his leadership, his loose ball ability, his physicality, I think that now at this point in his career, it might be too late for him to win one because he isn't in the same, he's still in great shape, but he's older now. He's not going to have the numbers necessarily, but for a long stretch there, he was an outstanding defender. And they did an offseason interview of players, around the league. And it was like, who would you want to be the captain of your team? And I think he was number one as voted on by his. So just, sometimes it feels like the Bandits get slighted, but I don't think they mind when they win championships. And the other part of it too, I think, Mike, is that they don't want to give the Bandits 4 or 5 awards. You're already giving Josh Byrne MVP, Dane Smith winning all his accolades, Matt Vince winning his accolades. It could very quickly turn into the Bandits winning, all 5 or 6 awards. So maybe they just want to have some parity there.
So I won't get into that too much, but I've never liked the term voter fatigue because it's not fair to certain players, but we're going to leave that alone for now.
Sure.
Let's get back into that Rock game a little bit more. So I know that Rochester took Buffalo for the first 3 quarters the first time they played. Obviously, that's history at this point, but was this the first? This was the first real test for Buffalo, it felt like, this year, where they had to really, dig deep because the team was getting to them early. Break down this Rock game for me.
Yeah, record be damned. The Rock match up with the Bandits better than any team. And you think that Jamie Dubwick's been building the team to try to beat Buffalo, right? They've shown them the door in the playoffs for years now and really have been the bane of Toronto's success has been Buffalo. Even when Buffalo was struggling last year, they beat Toronto. They tended to have some success against that team. So the game, the Rochester game, I think a lot of that was the Nighthawks had played a game already and Buffalo hadn't. So it maybe took them a little while. And the cream rose to the top. The better team in the fourth quarter went on an 8-1 run to win by 7 goals, 15-8, if my memory serves me right. This game, it was hard for anybody to go on a run because it was so disjointed with the calls and the penalties and rightfully so. These teams play incredibly physical. I feel like if it was a playoff game, 90% of what they called, they would have let go. The officials were trying, I think, to rein it in early, which caused the game to be very disjointed. Buffalo didn't score on their first 2 power plays. It took the major power play for them to get a power play goal while Toronto did score on their early power plays. So, Toronto definitely matches up well or are a bad matchup for the Bandits to be, they're not going to blow them out. They're good. Their team is built to hang with Buffalo, and they did. And can't forget getting Challen Rogers back. Not only the guy that, quarterbacks the offense, plays up top, is the shooter on the power play, but also your captain. He'd been out for the year. So getting your captain back, we saw immediate dividends of him playing offense. He even earned a star of the game. I think he was the 3rd star of the game as voted by the media. So getting him back was huge. Ultimately, though, the last laugh goes to Buffalo Bandits, and maybe more specifically to Nick Weiss, who gets into it with Hostrauser, and they're yelling back and forth in the penalty box. And for a lot of Bandits fans, that felt like poetic justice that, after getting into it early in the game, he pots the game winner with 43 seconds to go.
Yeah, I remember for my 3 stars of the weekend, I asked some fans, and I think Nick Weiss was one of the ones they liked. As I noticed that even on the Facebook group chats as well. I got to ask you about the Elijah Gash and Zach Belter thing, because that was quite the that was awesome. I'm glad that Belter did what he did, but I was on record saying, listen, the guy got knocked out. It's bound to happen in one of these fights. I thought it was interesting. But have you heard anything about how Zach Belter is doing, and what was your take on the fight in general?
So first and foremost, after the game, talked to Zach. He was okay. He's like, look, I saw it coming. I thought I could absorb it. Just, he's like, he caught me with a good one. It was a good swing. And yeah, Belter jumping in for Buffalo fans upset that Belter got the game misconduct. That's the rule, right? As the 3rd man in, the instigator rule, starting a fight that you weren't a part of, that's the rule. But yes, I was going to say, whether you asked or not, first and foremost, Zach's okay. And that is of the utmost importance. A few hours after the game, he was doing well. We talked a little bit. I agree. There's been other instances where players have stepped up to a fight and, 2 men agree to go. And sometimes you get caught with one. It gave the Rock a bit of juice for sure. But, what was weird about it is it seemed like some of the Rock players had to calm Elijah down. Like he was so fired up afterward and still like amped up. And, it felt like that Challen Rogers, Nick Rose had to tell him, okay, like, I'm sure the emotions were running high, but had to calm him down a little bit. And, and for the league, listen, you hate to see Zach go down like that, but man, has that gotten a ton of traction, just tons of outlets picking it up. And, the league having interactions with people as a result. So, it's tough to see because obviously you want everyone to be okay and you hate to see someone get hit like that. But ultimately, man, did it create a lot of engagement on social media.
I mean, it's possible in hockey. Like, just I said before, when a guy gets KO'd, and I'll use that term. It's like if they both engage in a fight, I guess it's bound to happen one time. And so if it helps the league, I'm sure Belter isn't mad at it either. I'm
Yeah,
sure.
I remember Travis Irving decided to step up as a rookie and fight some guy named Paul Dawson, and before he even could swing, Dawson connected and Irving was out on his feet. And he planked. I mean, he was just so yeah, it happens, and you don't like seeing guys get dinged up like that. But as far as if he's okay with it helping the league, I don't know. I didn't ask him that, but as seeing the amount of traction it got on social media, that part is pretty cool because we want eyes on the sport. It's so awesome to see.
1,000%. All right, so the Bandits season so far, I mentioned they swept Rochester, beat down what looks to be a competitive Ottawa team, and they're 4-0, leading the league right now and just looking dominant, doing what they want when they want. What is your take on the Bandits season so far and how hot they've started?
Yeah, even in games last year, it seemed like even in games that they would win, they wouldn't come out firing, and they have this year. That Toronto opened up a 2-0 lead, but then Buffalo tied it. They didn't get down 4 or 5 goals, which they'd done in the past last year. And that Ottawa game, I mean, Dunbar scored 30 seconds into the game, and then Buffalo ripped off a 5-goal run, and Ottawa didn't score again until the second quarter. Against Rochester, the second time they played, Buffalo was leading 6-0, and Rochester didn't score until the second quarter. And hey, this past week, when you have Matt Vince playing out of his skull, this past week he didn't play well. He would tell you he probably would say he didn't play well, and the team picked him up. I mean, he made big saves late for them, but in a night where he made like 27 or 23 saves on 30 some odd shots, they picked him up. The offense carried him. They scored goals and, got that big transition goal from Nick Weiss to end the game. And then, Toronto tries to score and doesn't Matt Vince make a big save and Steve Priolo get a big loose ball. It happened on the Nick Weiss goal and it happened on the empty net goal. So they're a hard team to beat because they're such a complete lacrosse team. You want to run and gun, they'll hang with you. You want to slow play it and play a low scoring game, they'll hang with you, or they're going to put up 6 before you know it. And now that style is no longer an option to you. So, there's not one thing that Buffalo does well. They're great in special teams. They have the best goalie in the world between the pipes, the best to ever do it. 2 MVP candidates up front, and neither one of them is even leading the team in scoring. That's Ian McKay, 13 goals. So
I love that their complete lacrosse team line. Of course, like you said, Ian McKay leading the team and what he's doing. I mean, especially with an emotional weekend, that was awesome to see for him in general. So we have the upcoming game now. It's versus the Wings, who are on the first part of a doubleheader, the first leg of it for you guys, at least for the Wings part of it. Wings have had an elite power play so far. They offer a guy like Brandon O'Neill, who's also a really sneaky, but he's really good.
Yep.
And so what is your take with the Wings and Bandits coming up this weekend?
The Wings are a good team that can't be underestimated, and they might finally be figuring some things out. They could always score, but now it seems like they're playing like a more complete team. And Joey Resetarits is absolutely incredible, and Mitch Jones on the other side. And then you mentioned Brendan O'Neill. They have some very real scoring threats. And listen, when I'm at shoot around in the morning, there are very few players of whom I hear Anthony Cosmo and Matt Vince speak about specifically. Joey Resetarits is one of them. Look for tendencies. If you see this, he's probably doing this. If you notice this, he's probably doing that. I'm not going to tip my hand any more than that and give anything away. But Joey Rez is a player that teams have to game plan for specifically. And obviously he can take over a game. You've got to be careful. Now, what I'll say is when the Bandits have played Rochester, for the most part, they've shut down Connor Fields. They've made other people try to beat him who didn't succeed. Ryan Waters couldn't score, on the right side for Rochester. They struggled to get scoring from other guys. The right side offense didn't get going. So, yeah, I think Philadelphia is a team you have to watch for, but ultimately the way Buffalo is playing, I mean, I think of Jake Elliott on his podcast that says, until I'm never picking against the Bandits, this entire season, I refuse to pick against them because of how well they're playing. So
I got to ask you, have you heard about anything about Michael Sowers? Because I know fans were asking if we're going to see any Michael Sowers moving forward. Have you heard anything from the Wings side?
No, I have not. We have a call with production on Friday for the broadcast, and we'll meet with Philly Saturday morning. We'll talk to coach and player. We don't have anything midweek planned with Philly, so I haven't heard otherwise. I don't know either way. I couldn't speak to it because I haven't heard, and we have not yet had a conversation with the Wings yet. We always talk to the other team before broadcast, just haven't done it this week yet.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your time, by the way. I'm not sure how many games the Bandits are going to win this year, especially in a row, but it looks like they're good for the foreseeable future. And Steve, again, thank you for the whole crew having me on WGR, and thank you for sticking it out and coming on the show today.
Thanks for not cutting me off when I didn't show yesterday. So I appreciate the great and the second chance, and it was great talking Buffalo Bandits lacrosse with you. Go Bills as well.
Oh, yeah. Are you guys going to win this weekend against the Ravens? I was going to ask that.
The Bills are a completely different team. So are the Ravens. The worst part of this matchup for them is the Bills like to let teams run the ball. Go ahead and run the ball, right? We're not going to give up anything over the top. Go ahead and run the ball. We're not going to stack the box. We'll outscore you. The problem is if you let the Ravens run the ball, you can lose very easily because King Henry is no joke. So we'll see if they opt to go with more 4-3, if they opt to stack the box a little bit. I'm certainly nervous about Baltimore, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Ravens won. But, of course, I'm going to pick Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills to win on Sunday.
Producer Joe is showing a bunch of Doug Flutie or whatever the crap he's got going on back there, so whatever he's got. But thank you, Steve.
Thanks. Take care, guys.
You too. Steve Bermel, everybody. Guys, that was fun. I'm glad to get him back on the show. First time this season for Steve Bermel. He is great, as always, and the Bandits are 4-0. But they're not the only good team in the league right now. Coming up next, we're going to talk to Cody Janzen, Saskatchewan Rush play-by-play. Talk about the 4-1 Rush. We'll be right back, Daily Dive. Don't go anywhere. I know you won't.
Don't go anywhere. Daily Dive will be right back.
Need tickets to that next event? Well, at 12 Ounce Sports, we've got them with soccer anywhere in the world. Tickets to any venue, any sport. Want to go to NCAA or NFL football matches? We've got them.
Yeah.
Baseball at every level. Every Power 5 matchup is available. Don't forget, costumes and paint are optional. What's that? You want to go to Broadway? We have those too. Want to jam out? Every concert, every artist. That's right, at 12 Ounce Sports, we've got the tickets for less. 12ozsports.com/tickets. That's 12ouncesports.com/tickets.
Welcome to MyBookie. You're ready to create an account and start making money, and we're here to help. And remember, you can get a bonus of up to $1,000 on your first deposit. Now you're ready to bet. Just go to mybookie.ag, visit the sportsbook, click on your bet, and input the amount you want to risk or win in the bet slip. Yes, it's that easy. Just remember, at MyBookie, you play, you win, you get paid.
America, get back on track with Dust Pod's Performance Stabilizer. When applied to roadways, it kills dust and strengthens the integrity of the road. Easily applied by mixing with water, Dust Pods is the future in polymer stabilization. Call 1-833-DUST-PODS or visit dustpods.com today.
Daily Dive is back in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Cody Janzen, Saskatchewan Rush play-by-play is here. Cody, it's sad seeing your friends get old, and you did not used to wear glasses on this show, but yet here you are.
Well, again, I don't have to. I'm just in the office. And so if you're saying it's a bad look, I'll trust you, Mike. But yeah, again, it's just a little easier on the eyes, right? You're staring at a screen all day. I don't mind the blue light glasses.
That's fair. So, hey, First of all, good call on the Las Vegas Desert Dogs game. I mean, wasn't much excitement, but good win for the Rush, who improved to 4-1, 15-9. I got to ask you about Ryan Keenan. Just right off the bat here, had what looks to be a breakout game for him this year with 4 goals, 3 assists. How big was that for the team? And talk about the game in general.
Yeah, I think like the game in general, probably not the most exciting game in the world, but you also hope that those games against a team who's probably going to be like bottom 3 in the league this year, you probably hope those aren't that interesting. For Keenan, though, that's a big one, right? He's your captain. He got off to a tough start. You don't expect that type of numbers from him through 4 games. And so in game 5, he kind of pops off. That's huge, right? Like that's a guy second on the team in scoring last year. He had 90 points. Like he was literally, the next man up. And so for him to score 4, I think it's kind of one of those things of like, yeah, he's still got it. Like it's still Ryan Keenan. The guy's an unbelievable lacrosse player. Sometimes you get snake bit. It happens, right? Sometimes you overthink it. You're gripping the stick too tight. You're doing things a little differently. But, I mean, the guy can still ball out. There's no doubt about it. So sometimes you need to get right game, and that's what Vegas felt like.
Zach Mans keeps it up with another good game for himself. How impressive was he in this game, and how good has he been this year for you guys?
It's funny to say like 8 points in the game. It's impressive, but like it didn't feel like it was a Zach Mans game.
Right.
It wasn't like, oh, he's the reason they won. It wasn't like the sock trick against Halifax. It wasn't like, the couple of transition goals there against Rochester that were just like great timing. It was just a normal night for Zach Mans, which is crazy to say because he had 8 points in a National Lacrosse League game. But like, that's just what we expect. It's what we see from Zach Mans. He's so good. He's so dynamic. And that's why, he's 4th in the league in goals right now. And I'd say he's probably put himself in that top 10 forward conversation with the way he's been playing.
I mean, yeah, and I think when he got there last year, like it was expected that he was going to start stepping up and being the number 1 possibly. It looks like he's doing that pretty well this year officially. So the Rush have played 3 overtime games this year. They're 2-1. They won at Albany, won versus Halifax, finally lost versus Philly. What did you see from those 3 games, and how good was that for the team moving forward?
Well, this is a team that was 1-7 in close games last year, right? In 1 or 2 goal games, they were 1-7. They were not good. They were 0-2 in overtimes. They just couldn't seem to get the bounces, couldn't get possession when they needed it, couldn't close out games. They were blowing leads. It's got a different feel, right? Because if you can win close games in the NLL, you're going to give your team a puncher's chance every night because there's a lot of close games in this league. 1 through 14 seems like there's always good games going on, right? Like we just saw it with the 14th best team in Toronto playing the first team in Buffalo, right? They played them to a 2-goal game. Count the empty netter. But like there's no easy nights in the National Lacrosse League. And so if you're a team that can win close games, you've got a chance to go on a run. And so for Saskatchewan, I think it's as simple as that, is that, hey, you get this team a little bit of confidence. They, should be a playoff team. I don't think anyone's disagreeing with that. If they don't make the playoffs, that's a disappointment. But once you get into the playoffs, you still got to win. You can't just be content.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And you mentioned those close games last year, the close games this year, could be the difference in the team's mentality in general. Frank Scigliano, I've been a big fan of his already this season. He's looked very good and consistently. How big is that for this team, considering he's got the playoff history people like to bring up?
I mean, listen, show me a good goalie, I'll show you a good team, right? Like it's not hard to kind of decipher how valuable a goaltender is in this league, especially when it's the hardest position out of all of them, right? So you get consistent goaltending out of Scigliano, you're going to give your team a chance every single night. So even for him, I think if you can get 780, 790 Frank Scigliano in the save percentage category, that's what you need. The Rush aren't going to give up a ton of shots. They never have. They're usually giving up between 40 and 50 shots a game. They're not a team that's going to give up 60 plus. So it's like his numbers are never going to be sexy. But it's, again, he's going to be a goaltender that if you're going to win with him between the pipes, you need him to make the timely saves and the key saves. And he did that. He made 7 saves in overtime against Albany. He made a stop against Rochester. They hit the post as well with like 20 seconds left, but like a minute left. Skiggs makes a huge stop in that one, right? Halifax, stop in overtime, right? Like, if you're getting those timely saves out of your goaltender, and that's what the Rush need out of Frank Chilion, right? Like, I don't need him to be this numbers guy, top 3 in the league, fancy stats, goals saved against average. I don't really give a shit. End of the day, it's like, is he giving this team a chance to win, and is he going to make the timely saves? Because if he is, that's what I want between the pipes.
That could be a good thing. Is well, the timely saves. It's like Matt Vince last year. Like we want to do that. I'm not saying he's Matt Vince, but it's true. So, I was going to mention the rookies, and good thing this comment came up from our good pal Hunter Smith. Jake Naso, you got Brock Haley, Levi Anderson, Josh Zawada. The other player, Matt Accioni, I believe, is the name. Tell me about all the rookies you've seen, especially, of course, Jake Naso.
Holy, let's just go right down the roster, eh? Okay, let's start with Naso. It's in the chat. What's up, Daily Dive chat? Jake Naso. Let's start with him. The first game, I think that first half, it was rough for him, right? Like, it's a totally different game than anything he's ever played before. Like, it was an eye opener, right? And I think it took him some time to adapt. But once he figured it out, I mean, the guy works his nuts off. Like, he is just one of the hardest workers out there. He's not afraid. He'll go get loose balls. He'll go toe-to-toe. I mean, look at the game against Philly, right? He wins a face-off. He'll go scoop up loose balls. He'll go and crash and bang. He ain't afraid of anyone grabbing his cage and giving him a little spin around, right? Like, he is actually an effective player because he's fearless. And I think that's what makes a successful face-off guy. You're not going to win all these face-offs clean in this league. You're just not, right? So you kind of have to be able to go and play some bully ball once in a while. And when you're Jake Naso's size, it's not often. A lot of guys play scared. There's a lot of guys, afraid to get hit, worried about when the next 6'4" mutant's going to come and try and rip their arm off. But, like, Naso's found a way around that, and he's getting better when he wins those faceoffs and running into trouble. He's good at finding that open guy or getting the ball into an empty space, right? Like, he's getting better at that, which is awesome to see. Other rookies, Zawada's only played a couple of games, but when he gets in, he's been pretty good. Oh, sorry, go.
No, I was just going to ask you before we get to the other ones. Jake Naso, was the Philly game the one where, like, he kind of, like, got, like, someone, like, blindsided?
Yeah, Scott Dominy jumped him there.
Okay.
Again, it's a whatever. I've said it before. Like, I don't mind what like the Philly did. Like, hey, Naso went and crashed the crease. End of the day, it was whatever the Wings D-man pushed him into their goalie. So, like, hard to be pissed off at Naso for that. But also every other, like, 14 out of 14 teams are doing that. So it's a little bit of a whatever burger in my mind. But I give credit anytime someone sticks up for their teammate. I don't care who you think is at fault. At the end of the day, good teams do that for each other. But it's also like, hey, Messenger came in, had a couple of words. I don't know. Sometimes you kind of want to see whoever on the rush maybe jump in there and grab a hold of the Philly guy and see some mitts hit the turf. But hey, that's old school Janner thinking on that one. So. No, Naso's been good, but on the forwards, like Zawada and Anderson, they've had 2 and 3 games respectively. I think they've been good. They're going to take some time to adapt. They've been playing a lot of field lacrosse over the last 4 or 5 years, so, like, kind of expected them to take a little bit of time to adapt. Matt Accioni's been awesome. Like, that's a great depth defenseman. You got a guy a bit undersized, but he, again, works his tail off, isn't afraid of anyone, loose ball machine, smart, thinks the game well. And then, I just think that there's such value in having young depth guys in the league where, like, it always feels like their engine's going, right? And, like, that's a huge thing I see with Accioni. And then to finish it off with a fifth, it's Brock Haley. And that's where I think, his engine's always going. Every time Brock Haley has the ball, he's a threat, right? And that's what you want out of an offensive guy. You see it with some of the best. And we just saw, like, Joe Rezateritz and Mitch Jones. Like, those two guys, every time they have the ball, they're a threat. That's what you want. That's what I see in a Brock Haley is this guy's got a nose for the net. And, I like seeing that in a guy. I don't want to see a guy timid, trying to be a passive player. That's what makes Robert Church, Zach Mann so effective. Those guys get to the middle, they take their shots, and they've got confidence, right? So I see a lot of that in Brock Haley. And I think that guy, could be contending for Rookie of the Year at the end of the year.
I love that so much. And, like, I believe I mentioned it on like the recent draft. I don't know how many of these guys are from the recent draft, but it's like so many guys the Rush just stole from everybody. They're just eating up. I love it so much for the Saskatchewan Rush and their fans, by the way.
Well, it's crazy that all of a sudden like a team can just like quit on a guy like Brock Haley. Like not that that's exactly what Vancouver did. Like, you know, I don't know. Maybe they didn't want to find him an apartment for his dog, or you know, maybe they just didn't like seeing. It's insane to me, Mike. Like we could dive into the whole dirt of it, but like a team to just give up on Brock Haley. Listen, this guy had like 120 goals a couple summers ago playing juniors. Like something no one else has like ever done. And I don't know, a team's going to move on from him that quick. It's crazy. We're like, Brock Haley in a few years could score 40 goals in a year, and we'd be like, yeah, it's Brock Haley. Like, no shit, right? Like this guy is that good. I'm telling you.
Oh, well, I love that. I got to ask you about the Rock, because a hungry Rock team coming up who just played the Bandits well. What is the biggest challenge the Toronto Rock raised to the Rush?
They're the hungriest team in the league, aren't they? Oh. Again, if you know, not to say a loss in January eliminates you from the playoffs, but if you pick up 6 losses before, you know, Valentine's Day, you're kind of in trouble, right? Like that's an issue. That's a red flag right there. So I'm not saying that the Rush have a chance to eliminate the Rock from the playoffs, but you can kind of end their season here if you put them behind the 8 ball for a 6th time. And so I think that's the scariest part, is the Rush have built themselves up a cushion. But you can't think like that. As a player, you got to think of what's next. How can I continue to move north? And, you know, if you take your foot off the pedal being like, well, Toronto's 0-5, worst team in the league, you're screwed. Toronto's just going to pound the piss out of you, right? They're still a good lacrosse team, and they're getting some guys back off the IR. And so, you know, they've got this potential. They're a team that knows how to win. I don't know. Not going to be an easy one for sure. They're playing in that junior hockey rink now, so it's going to be small, loud, packed, intimidating place to go into. I think it's going to be a great game. I don't know. You want to watch a team who's on the up and up in Saskatchewan take on a team who's trying to, you know, prove that they're not on, not the back 9, but the back 2 or 3, right? Like they've got some older guys there, right, that aren't going to be in the league 5 years from now. But they want to prove that they can still win, and I think that that's the interesting part in Saskatchewan-Toronto this weekend.
I mentioned Ryan Keenan kind of breaking out again. Which player would you like to see, or players, really have a game this weekend that can not just help this weekend, but also going forward for the rest of the season?
I still think that the transition offense is something Saskatchewan can improve on. Like we've seen, like Barnable and Boudreau have some success. I want to see Mike Messenger bury a few. I think he's got the ability in transition. He knows that he can go out there and bury a few, but I think that this is definitely something where he can impact a game a little bit more. And so I think that that's an interesting one. Boudreau and Barnable, it's more so just keep going and keep firing. Like, frick, I don't know. Those guys have scored a couple each this year. Keep shooting it in transition. I want to see more of that. Like this is a team that can play. Jarrett Smith, guys like that, Hossack. Right? Like they've got some transition threats that they've been good, but not great. And I think that's also the exciting part, is I still think that the Rush have not been nearly at their ceiling this year. Like they still have a lot of things to clean up, and they're 4-1. So you flip a few things around, this team could be real dangerous.
Not to put your color guy for, what is your color guy's name again? I love the guy. I always forget his name.
John
Fraser. So John mentioned during the broadcast of the Dogs is that like Boudreau's being more passive sometimes, which is like showing maturity, but you seem like you might want him to take a little bit more shots in transition. Or how are you feeling about it? Because I love Boudreau. I love
it's all time and place, right? Like there's a time where I think, you know, passing on that shot is the right play to do, and veterans know that. I think that, I don't know, I want to see early in games. I want to see the Rush pushing the pace a little bit more. I want to see them putting teams' defenses in uncomfortable situations. And what can you do for that? Use your speed and attack in transition.
Real quick, you talked about the game in Mississauga. I got to ask you, are you there right now? Because are you still doing the road radio stuff?
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, we're still doing the road radio. I'm not there yet. No, we fly out Friday morning. Also, cool on that. No, I appreciate the shout out there in a sense of like, hey, we've always, been on the radio in Saskatoon and surrounding area there on the Bull. They've now added 4 more stations, so it's super cool that now it's a lot more around the province, right? So Kindersley, Rosetown, Swift Current, Estevan, all those small communities. Like Saskatchewan's huge, right? And so to be able to reach more fans, more people, that's a cool thing that the Rush have been really pushing and doing, because we are a provincial team, right? It's not just a city based, it's everywhere.
So am I allowed to ask about Montana Lacrosse League?
You're not allowed to ask anything, Mike.
Because aren't you like the GM of like the Crusaders or whatever it
Hey,
was?
that's what I was doing this fall. You were there. You saw it.
Is this like the champion Crusaders?
Yeah, that was fun. That was awesome. I tip my hat to guys like Ryan Hanavan, everything they're doing. Like, I know you talk about growing the game and how lacrosse can be better. Like, tell me if I'm wrong, but like what Ryan Hanavan does is perfect. Like, that guy does what I don't know. I mean, if you're the NLL, you should be throwing 6 figures at that guy to be like, hey, help us out here. No? Like that, that guy does is he makes the game accessible. And so that's a huge thing, right? In a sport that wants to grow, I think that someone like Ryan's awesome. What he's doing in Missoula is awesome. And yeah, being a part of the MLL, that was a ton of fun, but like there was so much more that went on behind the scenes, right?
Yeah, I was just being there. It was my first ever lacrosse like event in general, and it was amazing, the show that was put on there. Jake Naso was on your Crusaders. I don't know how you managed that, but pretty good.
Well, Nate, he had reached out even before. Like he knew he wanted to play box lacrosse, right? So like he had reached out through Ryan, whoever before, and so there was a few other Americans too that I wanted to see out there, but. Again, end of the day, you can't get everyone. That's what it is. But it was cool to see him. I think that there's still other guys there that probably should be in the league. I think there's a little bit of bias still against guys from Alberta, Saskatchewan, stuff like that. But like all in all, I thought that was cool. I can't wait for season 2 and what Ryan and everyone's got in store, because they're great people down in Montana. There, like it's not just Ryan, it's Bryce, it's Jimmy, it's all those guys that are doing so much good for the game. And so like any way I can help out, man, I'm gonna do it, because like it's, as I said, there's a lot less red tape down there, and I think that those guys are truly in it for the right reasons.
We had jerseys for sale. It was fantastic. I love the whole thing. And Cody, nice retro look by the way today with your hoodie. I know.
Hey, I appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us. I know we went a little bit further than what we probably would have liked today, but we're scheduled for. But you were awesome as always. Brought the fire. Thank you so much, Ain. Have fun in Mississauga, dude.
Hey, always a pleasure, Mike. We'll talk soon.
Yes, sir. Cody Janzen, Saskatchewan Rush. We just talked to guys from 2 of the best teams in the league, so you're welcome, Dilly Dive. Hey, when we come back to this awesome show, my power rankings. I've already told you 1 and 2. Let's talk about the whole list, though. This is Dilly Dive. Don't go anywhere. We're going to wrap it up next.
Don't go anywhere. Daily Dive will be right back.
You need tickets to that next event? We've got them. That's right, tickets.12ozsports.com. Get you to any sporting event, concert, theater event that you can think of. And the promo code 12OZ or ROME gets you an additional discount. Don't feed the massive ticket corporate machine. Go to tickets.12ozsports.com and enjoy the show. America, get back on track with Dust Pods Performance Stabilizer. When applied to roadways, it kills dust and strengthens the integrity of the road. Easily applied by mixing with water, Dust Pods is the future in polymer stabilization. Call 1-833-DUST-PODS or visit dustpods.com today.
What up, everybody? It's producer Joe, the baddest daddy in producing history, here to tell you all about the baddest, daddiest merch store. Go to the link tree in the bios of either our IG or Twitter, and from there you can access merch for the only Monday through Friday live lacrosse talk show on the internet. I repeat, the only Monday through Friday live lacrosse talk show on the internet. We got hoodies for when your girl comes over and wants to cuddle. Just don't let her take it when she leaves. How about a Baddest Daddy cap for when you lie about how much you hate Mike in this show, but you're still here? We've got beanies so you can do that in the cold too. Guys, what's going to happen when all these moms see you dropping your kid off at practice in this thing? Want to sip like a daddy and feel like a baddie? Check out that mug. 6-time NLL champ Johnny T and savior of my Buffalo sports childhood knows what I'm talking about. Guys, I'm really going to need you to start buying shit because I'm getting sick of doing Instacart. But yeah, go check it out so you can start repping and supporting the brand. Producer Daddy out.
Daily Dive is back in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Oh, baby, we're back and better than ever. Welcome back to the show. Reminder, when today's awesome show ends and you're getting your tickets for the next game, there's 8 of them this weekend. Buy your tickets for less at tickets.12onsports.com. That's tickets.numbers12letters OZsports.com. You will not regret seeing things live, knowing you got your tickets for a great price. By the way, we have 100 plus viewers in the chat, and a lot of them on YouTube, which is pretty cool. So we appreciate you for tuning in to this show. It is now time to get into my power rankings, and as always, I'll let you know, if you want Producer Joe's power rankings, gotta ask him in the chat or message him on Instagram, Baddest Production Father. Alrighty. Here they are for me. This was tough for me this week. It shouldn't have been tough, but it was. So, basically, I've got the Bandits, I've got the Rush, as you see the cursor moving around. I've got the Wings up to number 3, even though I question their physicality. The Mammoth have moved up to number 4. I love what the Mammoth are doing this year so far. They are a really hot team, and I'm telling you, if Dylan Ward is on it, they have a really good offense, and that home stadium is something to be reckoned with. I love the Mammoth this year. Seals are number 5. Now, Seals beat the Mammoth, but I'm like, you can't lose to Vancouver the way they did. They've lost games where I'm like, what the crap, San Diego? Ottawa, number 6. Swarm Thornton, number 7. I know they beat the Seals twice, but it's like, guys, you can't lose games in Rochester and Ottawa back-to-back weeks. I had to move somebody down and somebody up. Warriors are number 8, even though they probably could be rising very quickly. I like Vancouver this year quicker than I thought I would under the Kurt Molosky regime. Albany State's put at 9, Rochester 10, Toronto's 11, Halifax up to 12. They were at number 14, so I can't move them all the way up for beating Philly, but for beating Rochester. But again, Halifax is starting to impress me. Calgary, Las Vegas. I mean, Las Vegas is such a low 14. I'm sorry, Vegas fans. Like it's tough. I do want to mention, if you caught the news ticker earlier, the Desert Dogs have traded Dylan Watson to the Seals in exchange for Drew Belgrave and a 2027 second-round pick. And the Wings moved their game from Sunday to Monday due to the conflicting schedule of the NFL playoffs, where the Eagles play at 3 and the Wings play at 5. So they're like, hey, traffic is terrible. So Monday, 5 o'clock, there it is. I hope people show up. I really do, because that could be interesting. According to Adam Levy, it's the 3rd Monday lacrosse game in NLL history. That's wild. So we're excited for that. Alrighty. Thank you once again for tuning in to this awesome show. And for those of you that commented, you're awesome as well, especially Hunter Smith. Thank you. Call me AL on Twitter also is chiming in, and as among others. Thank you for watching and engaging. Reminder, you are the bread, you are the butter, you are the TV-14 to my Cody Janzen, because my goodness, the language, my boy, the language. I'm kidding. Thank you for all of our guests who come on the show, like those previously, such as Joe versus Terrence, etc. Those today, like Steve Bermel, Cody Janzen, those to come. Like tomorrow, we're going to have Dan Arestia. Thank you for coming on this show, sharing your audience and platform with us, giving us validity and relevance. For Bigo, who's always tapping it up on social media, and for the baddest daddy in producing history, producer Joe, I'm your host, Mike, saying have a great rest of your day. See you tomorrow, same time, same place, on sports. This has been Daily Dive. Bye.
Thanks for watching Daily Dive. See you next time.